Luffy, Ace, and Sabo had very different journeys despite being together during their childhood. However, what if these three had teamed up and formed a pirate crew from the start? How would things have been different, and how would their adventures have changed? After swearing their brotherhood with alcohol cups, Luffy, Ace, and Sabo forged an unbreakable bond. Fueled by dreams of freedom and adventure, they decided to form their own pirate crew. The deal was that they'd take turns as captain, but since Luffy was the youngest, they would wait until he turned 17 for his turn at leadership. Each of them trained relentlessly in the Goa Kingdom's forests, honing their skills, fighting together, and growing stronger. Ace mastered his haki early, developing an affinity for combat strategy. Sabo became especially skilled with his pipe and in hand-to-hand combat while also becoming an expert in navigation and stealth. Meanwhile, Luffy's raw strength and creativity made him a force of chaos in battle. When Sabo and Ace turned 17, their journey began. With a small boat built with Dadan's reluctant help, the three set sail from Dawn Island. Ace was the first to captain, and his fiery charisma quickly drew allies to their side. Early in their journey, Ace encountered the Mera Mera no Mi after the three ended up on an isolated island. There, Ace found and consumed the fruit, becoming a flaming Logia type. His newfound abilities enhanced the crew's firepower significantly, though Luffy insisted that his dream to surpass his brothers hadn't changed. As they ventured into the East Blue, the crew expanded. Ace's charisma, Sabo's sharp judgment, and Luffy's infectious energy attracted strong individuals, including some of the pirates from the Spade Pirates that Ace had formed in the original timeline. Deuce, the writer who became their chronicler, Skull, a skilled marksman, and Mihar, a cook with a penchant for explosives. Each crewmate found a place in the crew and their reputation began to grow. By the time the crew reached the South Blue, they were a formidable force. They raided supply ships, challenged corrupt marine officers, and liberated oppressed towns. Ace's ambition to make a name for himself pushed them toward bolder risks, but Sabo tempered his impulsive decisions, ensuring they didn't take unnecessary losses. Luffy, meanwhile, acted as the glue that kept morale high. During this time, Ace and Sabo led the crew to victory against larger pirate crews, capturing treasure and territory in equal measure. Sabo refined his use of haki, mastering observation haki to become the crew's scout and strategist, while Luffy began to unlock the raw potential of his devil fruit, his unorthodox fighting style surprising even the most seasoned opponents. The crew set their sights on the Grand Line and entered Reverse Mountain. Once inside the Grand Line, they encountered powerful adversaries, including pirate crews aligned with minor warlords of the sea. One such skirmish introduced them to their first major rival, a Shichibukai named Hanafuda. The clash was fierce, with Ace's flames carving through enemy ships, Sabo's agility keeping their enemies off balance, and Luffy's raw power smashing through defenses. Their victories solidified their reputation as a rising force, drawing the attention of the Marines and other pirate crews as they took down a warlord of the sea. During their voyage through the New World, the crew was caught in a sudden, violent storm near Wano's borders. Their ship was thrown against jagged rocks, leaving them shipwrecked on the shores of the isolated nation. Stranded, Ace, Sabo, Luffy, and the crew ventured inland, unknowingly entering the impoverished Amigasa village. The villagers were desperate and starving. Luffy and the rest observed their condition. Frail bodies, sunken eyes, and children crying from hunger. He was the first to gather food supplies and feed the hungry villagers. The unexpected gesture stunned the villagers, breaking the cycle of mistrust. The crew spent the next few weeks in Amigasa village, sharing what little resources they had left and helping the villagers rebuild their homes. Luffy quickly befriended Tama, a spirited young girl with dreams of becoming a kunoichi. Sabo became a mentor to the village youth, teaching them self-defense and strategies for protecting themselves. Ace, meanwhile, helped fortify the village, earning the admiration and gratitude of the starving people. As they grew closer to the villagers, the flaming Straw Hat pirates learned of the horrors perpetrated by the Beast's pirates. The pirates routinely abducted children from Wano's villages and pressed them into servitude on Onigashima. Enraged by this cruelty, Ace declared that they would infiltrate Kaido's stronghold and free the captured children. Despite Sabo's initial concerns about provoking one of the Yonko, he quickly let his anger take over, and the crew devised a plan to strike at Onigashima while Kaido and his top subordinates were away on an expedition. Under the cover of night, the crew sailed to Onigashima. The infiltration was chaotic and fierce. The crew clashed with the Beast Pirates' lower-ranking members and tore through Kaido's castle, setting fire to storehouses and smashing through armories. Sabo's precise strikes and Luffy's unpredictable fighting style worked in perfect harmony with Ace's flames, which illuminated the dark corridors of the fortress. After liberating the prisoners, the pirates ensured their safe return to Amigasa village. However, the damage they inflicted on Kaido's castle left a lasting mark, making them a known threat in Wano. As the crew prepared to leave Onigashima, Yamato appeared and challenged the pirates. The clash was spectacular but short-lived, as Yamato quickly realized that the crew hated Kaido as well and soon formed a bond. Over a campfire in the woods, Yamato confessed their dream of leaving Wano and living freely, inspired by the tales of Odin's journey. The brothers shared their own dreams, and they bonded over them, becoming fast friends. Though Yamato ultimately decided to remain in Wano to continue resisting Kaido's rule, they promised to one day meet again on the open seas. 2 years after setting sail, the flaming Straw Hat Pirates had cemented themselves as rising stars in the world of piracy. Ace, Sabo, and Luffy's names were whispered across the seas, and their crew had grown into a powerful unit, drawing the attention of both the Marines and bounty hunters. With their actions leaving behind a trail of liberated villages and defeated pirates, each brother had become notorious, particularly Luffy, who often dove straight into every single battle. At merely 17, his bounty was already considerable enough to establish him as a prime target for bounty hunters keen to demonstrate their skills. During their journey across the East Blue to replenish their supplies, the crew visited a lively port city. Ace and Sabo remained on their vessel, supervising the repairs and strategizing their next steps, while Luffy strolled into the town, attracted by the aroma of food. Unbeknownst to him, his bounty poster caught the attention of one of the most dreaded bounty hunters in the East Blue, Roronoa Zoro. Zoro was an infamous bounty hunter who pursued pirates in the East Blue to strengthen his abilities, with the aim of becoming the strongest swordsman in the world. Luffy's bounty had already piqued his interest when he noticed the pirate wandering about and snacking on meat skewers. Zoro shouted at Luffy, inquiring if he was Straw Hat Luffy, to which Luffy quickly replied. The bounty hunter was well known, and the crowd swiftly dispersed, forming a significant gap between the two. Zoro unsheathed his swords, his intense gaze locking onto Luffy. Zoro told him that he was after his bounty. The fight began abruptly, with Zoro lunging at Luffy, his three swords forming a whirlwind of steel. Luffy dodged the initial strike with his typical carefree agility, laughing as if the fight were a game. Zoro's precision and power, however, quickly forced Luffy to take the battle a bit more seriously. The clash was chaotic and drew a crowd despite the initial panic. Despite his best efforts, Zoro found himself in a defensive position as Luffy's sheer strength and speed began to overpower him. Ultimately, Zoro found himself disarmed, both literally and metaphorically. Luffy unleashed a powerful Gomu Gomu no Bazooka, sending Zoro smashing into a nearby wall, concluding the battle. However, rather than ridiculing or hurting him further, Luffy offered a hand with a smile. Bruised but unbroken, Zoro sat against the wall, surprised not only by Luffy's strength but also by his strange kindness. Luffy introduced himself properly, explaining that he wasn't interested in hurting Zoro but admired his skills and determination. When Luffy casually mentioned that he was recruiting strong people and wanted Zoro to be a swordsman, the bounty hunter was caught off guard. Zoro hesitated a bit but soon realized that Luffy's sincerity and dream might be worth following to fulfill his own. He reminisced about his promise to become the world's best swordsman and understood that journeying with Luffy and his companions could be essential to achieving that ambition. He agreed to join the crew as long as Luffy and his crew wouldn't hinder his own ambition. The two shook hands as Ace and Sabo arrived on the scene. Though initially skeptical of the bounty hunter, Ace and Sabo quickly recognized Zoro's value to their crew. Ace appreciated Zoro's straightforward attitude, while Sabo admired his resolve. The crew welcomed Zoro aboard. Sailing through the Grand Line, the pirates arrived in Alabasta. They had listened to whispers regarding the oppression caused by the Shichibukai crocodile. Luffy was furious upon discovering that Crocodile was responsible for the suffering endured by the people of Alabasta. During their search for information in the desert city of Nanohana, the crew met Princess Vivi, who had secretly joined Baroque Works to rescue her kingdom. Vivi initially distrusted the pirates, but quickly realized that they shared her goal of stopping Crocodile. With her guidance, the crew uncovered the depth of Baroque Works' influence and the scope of Crocodile's plan to take over Alabasta. Baroque Works agents were dispatched to eliminate the flaming Straw Hat Pirates, but the crew proved their strength in a series of intense battles. Zoro faced the deadly assassin Daz Bones, whose Supa no Mi ability turned his body into blades. The battle pushed Zoro to his limits, forcing him to unlock a deeper level of his swordsmanship. He achieved the ability to cut steel, defeating Mr. One in a climactic clash of skill and willpower. Sabo took on the flamboyant and versatile Mr. Two, who used the main no Mi to shapeshift and confuse his opponents. Sabo's calm and strategic mind allowed him to easily outwit Mr. Two. Ace faced Mr. Three, whose wax-based Doru no Mi powers allowed him to create impenetrable defenses. Ace's fiery Mera no Mi ability proved to be the perfect counter, melting through the wax with ease. The fight was quick but flashy, showcasing Ace's overwhelming power. Sabo and Ace let Luffy directly confront Crocodile. However, the battle did not go as Luffy expected. Crocodile's Suna no Mi powers allowed him to drain moisture and control sand, making him nearly invincible in the desert. Despite Luffy's determination, Crocodile defeated him, leaving him buried in the sand, battered and near death. Ace and Sabo rescued Luffy from his near-fatal defeat and regrouped with the rest of the crew. Vivi, shaken but resolute, revealed Crocodile's plan to detonate a massive bomb in Alubarna, the capital city, to further escalate the rebellion. The crew realized they had to split up. One team would stop the bomb, while the other would take on Crocodile once and for all. Sabo and Zoro led the charge in Alubarna, defeating Baroque Works agents and disabling the bomb with moments to spare. Ace and Luffy headed to Crocodile's hideout in the ruins of Rain Base, determined to end the warlord's reign. Vivi accompanied them, driven to confront the man who had brought her kingdom to ruin. In the depths of Crocodile's lair, the final battle began. Luffy, having learned from his previous defeat, adapted his strategy to counter Crocodile's abilities. Using water water stored in barrels carried on his back, Luffy managed to nullify Crocodile's sand-based powers, landing powerful blows that shook the warlord. Ace watched from a distance, ensuring Luffy had the space to focus on the battle. In a climactic moment, Crocodile unleashed his most devastating technique, turning the entire battlefield into a raging sandstorm. Luffy, however, used his bloodied fist to break through the storm and land a finishing blow on Crocodile. The warlord was defeated, his body crashing into the ruins. With Crocodile defeated and Baroque works dismantled, the rebellion in Alabasta was halted. The people learned the truth of the royal family's innocence, and Vivi was hailed as a hero. As the crew prepared to leave, Luffy and Vivi exchanged a heartfelt farewell, promising to meet again someday. By this point, the crew had become a force to be reckoned with, their reputation shaking even the most hardened pirates. Their victories over Crocodile and Hanafuda, their growing fleet, and the combined strength of Luffy, Ace, Sabo, Zoro, and their crew had elevated them to near mythical status in certain parts of the Grand Line. Luffy's strength had grown exponentially. With Ace and Sabo's guidance and his relentless training, he was now far more formidable than in the original timeline. His haki was developing, and he was beginning to grasp advanced techniques inspired by his brothers and the challenges they had faced together. Sabo, still without a devil fruit, had perfected his mastery of the Dragon Claw technique, growing into a haki master whose strength rivaled Ace's. Ace had also refined his use of the Mera Mera no Mi, combining his natural fighting skill with his fiery powers. Zoro, too, had grown significantly under the crew's tutelage, honing his swordsmanship and willpower to one day achieve his dream. The crew, now split between two ships due to their expanding numbers, had also begun discussing territories. Inspired by the examples of Whitebeard and other Yonko-like figures, the pirates unanimously decided to secure East Blue as their base. Ace and Sabo took charge of clearing East Blue of dangerous pirates. With their combined strength and leadership, they dismantled pirate crews that had terrorized the region for years. They liberated villages, restored order, and made their presence felt. Many of the weaker pirates fled upon hearing of Ace and Sabo's approach, while others attempted to resist, only to be crushed in battle. Meanwhile, Luffy and Zoro sailed to the Sabaudi archipelago, seeking to train further in preparation for the challenges ahead. Upon arriving at Sabaudi, Luffy and Zoro found themselves in a chaotic environment. The archipelago was teeming with activity, as the world's most notorious up-and-coming pirates, the worst generation, had gathered. Each captain was eager to make their mark on history, and the island buzzed with clashes and alliances. Luffy's carefree nature drew the attention of several pirates, who saw his massive bounty and reputation as a challenge to overcome. However, Zoro was more than capable of fending off anyone foolish enough to approach. Their growing power was undeniable, and their interactions with the other worst generation members ranged from friendly rivalries to tense standoffs. Despite their newfound strength, Luffy and Zoro found themselves overwhelmed. Admiral Kizaru proved too much for them, and despite Rayleigh's presence, the two were captured by the Marines and taken aboard a warship. The Marines celebrated their success, believing they had struck a decisive blow against the notorious crew. Following their capture, Luffy and Zoro were taken to Impel Down, the notorious underwater jail. Bound in sea stone shackles, they were kept under heavy guard as the Marines were well aware of their strength. Luffy's reputation as the Straw Hat Captain and his growing bounty made him a prime target, while Zoro's infamous skills as a swordsman only added to the threat they posed. The Warden, Magellan, took special precautions, placing the two in the dreaded level 6, where only the most dangerous criminals were held. Here, Luffy and Zoro found themselves surrounded by monstrous figures, but even in captivity, their spirits remained unbroken. When word of Luffy and Zoro's imprisonment reached Ace and Sabo, they wasted no time. The crew unanimously agreed to launch an all-out assault on Impel Down, knowing full well the risks. Ace and Sabo devised a daring plan. The fleet, now divided into multiple ships, would attack the prison's exterior to create chaos and draw the Marines' attention. Ace and Sabo, along with a select group of their strongest crewmates, would infiltrate the prison from the lower levels, using the chaos to fight their way to Luffy and Zoro. Once Luffy and Zoro were freed, the crew would signal for an evacuation, unleashing their full firepower to escape. The fleet descended on Impel Down, their attacks sparking panic among the Marines stationed there. Warships were sent to intercept them, but the pirates' overwhelming force proved unstoppable. Cannons roared as the fleet tore through the Marine blockade, clearing the way for the infiltration team. Ace and Sabo led the charge into the prison, their crew breaking through the outer defenses with a combination of brute force and strategy. The lower levels of Impel Down were chaos incarnate, with prisoners and guards alike thrown into battle. Ace confronted the Vice Warden, Hannibal, whose determination to protect the prison wasn't enough to face Ace. Ace's Mera Mera no Mi powers overwhelmed Hannibal, the intense flames scattering his forces. The giant blue gory guards tried to subdue Ace, but they were no match for his fiery onslaught. Sabo faced the sadistic Sadie, whose whip and the demon guards posed little threat. Sabo quickly defeated them before ensuring the group advanced swiftly through the levels. In level 6, the prisoners had begun to take notice of the chaos above. Luffy, ever defiant, rallied the other inmates, encouraging them to break free and fight back. Even without his powers, Luffy's charisma was unmatched, and many of the criminals saw him as their best chance at freedom. Zoro, meanwhile, bided his time, sharpening sharpening his focus. His resolve to protect Luffy and the crew burned brighter than ever. When word of the infiltration reached their level, hope surged through the prisoners. As Ace and Sabo reached the lower levels, they encountered Magellan, the Warden of Impel Down. The poisonous titan blocked their path, his Doku Doku no Mi abilities creating a near impenetrable defense. Ace engaged Magellan directly, his flames clashing against the Warden's corrosive poison. Despite Ace's immense power, Magellan's poison proved difficult to counter, forcing Ace to rely on his speed and agility to avoid direct contact. Sabo, recognizing the danger, supported Ace by targeting Magellan's blind spots. His Haki-infused strikes disrupted Magellan's attacks, creating openings for Ace to strike. Together, the brothers launched a coordinated assault, their teamwork pushing Magellan to his limits. Despite their strength, Magellan's overwhelming poison began to take its toll. Just as it seemed the brothers might falter, a group of freed prisoners inspired by Luffy joined the fray, distracting Magellan long enough for Ace and Sabo to break through. Ace and Sabo reached level 6 and found Luffy and Zoro amidst a riot of freed prisoners. The reunion was brief but emotional, as the brothers wasted no time breaking Luffy and Zoro's shackles. Luffy, reinvigorated, leaped into action, his Haki-infused punches smashing through the remaining guards. Zoro, now armed once more, carved a path through their enemies. The crew began their ascent through the chaos. The crew's escape from Impel Down was nothing short of legendary, with Ace and Sabo leading the charge, Luffy and Zoro wreaking havoc, and the fleet bombarding the prison's defenses from the outside. The crew broke through every obstacle in their path. As they reached the surface, the Marines attempted to block their escape with warships and cannon fire. However, the fleet retaliated with devastating force, clearing the way for their flagship to break free. The rescue mission left Impel Down in ruins, along with its reputation as an impenetrable prison. The assault sent shockwaves through the world, cementing the crew's status as one of the most dangerous on the seas. The assault had garnered them immense infamy, making them one of the most wanted pirate crews in the world. Recognizing the need for even greater strength to face the challenges ahead, the crew made a strategic decision. Luffy and Zoro, realizing their need to push their limits, parted ways with the main crew temporarily to train under Silver's Rayleigh. Rayleigh agreed to take them under his wing at Rusakaina, the island of 48 seasons, to master their respective strengths. The rest of the fleet, led by Sabo and Ace, returned to East Blue, now the crew's unofficial territory. Their mission was to strengthen their hold, ensure the safety of the locals, and establish East Blue as an unassailable base. Over the 2 years, the crew became legends in East Blue. Ace and Sabo liberated oppressed islands, defeated remnants of hostile pirate crews, and built alliances with grateful villagers and merchants. The people of East Blue began to see them as protectors rather than mere outlaws. Luffy and Zoro, meanwhile, underwent brutal training under Rayleigh. Luffy learned to use his powers more effectively and mastered advanced applications of Conqueror's Haki and Armament Haki. Zoro was trained to exhaustion by his swordsman master, mastering techniques that combined his swordsmanship with Haki to devastating effect. Under Rayleigh's guidance, both achieved massive progress and became forces to be reckoned with. 2 years passed, and the Marines, seeing the growing influence of the now dubbed Flaming Straw Hat Pirates, decided to strike. They viewed the pirates' hold on East Blue as an affront to their authority and planned a large-scale attack to crush the crew once and for all. Leading the assault was Admiral Kizaru, the Light Admiral, known for his overwhelming speed and devastating power. Accompanying him was a fleet of Vice Admirals, elite Marines, and a battalion of warships. The attack began with the Marines invading multiple islands in East Blue, attempting to draw the Flaming Straw Hat Pirates into an open confrontation. Sabo and Ace, leading the fleet, launched a counter-offensive, engaging the Marines across several fronts. Ace, commanding one of the pirate fleet's ships, clashed with Vice Admirals leading the Marine warships. His flames engulfed the seas, incinerating cannonballs mid-flight and destroying enemy ships. Despite the overwhelming odds, Ace's firepower kept the Marines at bay. Sabo, leading the ground forces, confronted Marine battalions that had landed on the islands. He was a one-man army, crushing enemy forces and protecting the locals caught in the crossfire. Despite their efforts, the sheer strength of the Marines' assault began to take its toll. The situation grew dire when Kizaru joined the fray, his light-speed attacks overwhelming Ace and Sabo's defenses. Word had already reached Luffy and Zoro that their territory was under attack, and they arrived just in the nick of time as the war reached its peak. Luffy and Zoro's arrival was dramatic, their ship appearing amidst the chaos of the naval battle. Luffy launched himself into the fray, his advanced Conqueror's Haki knocking out dozens of Marines instantly. His Gear 4th, now enhanced with advanced armament Haki, allowed him to destroy warships with a single punch. Zoro, wielding his 3 swords infused with Haki, cut through ships and Marines with terrifying precision. His power was now on par with the strongest swordsman in the world, and his newfound strength left even the Vice Admirals in awe. The climactic moment of the battle came when Luffy and Ace confronted Admiral Kizaru and Kuzan, who had joined to support the former. Ace faced Kizaru first, his flames clashing with the Admiral's light-based attacks. Despite Ace's incredible strength, Kizaru's speed and precision gave him the upper hand, forcing Ace to rely on his brothers for support. Sabo joined the fight, using his Dragon Claw technique to disrupt Kizaru's movements. His mastery of Haki allowed him to block some of Kizaru's attacks, and together, the two began overpowering overpowering the Admiral. Zoro, stepping into the fray, used his newly mastered techniques to cut through Kuzan's ice constructs. His attacks were precise and relentless, pushing the Admiral to fight seriously. The tide turned when Luffy entered the battle, his advanced Conqueror's Haki, allowing him to keep up with Kuzan's strength. Luffy's punches, now imbued with immense power, began to push him back. The united actions of the brothers were overwhelming for the Admirals. Luffy's unwavering resolve, Ace's intense strength, Sabo's tactical blows, and Zoro's expert swordplay surpassed the elite ranks of the Marines. The conflict concluded with the Flaming Straw Hat Pirates triumphant, their control over East Blue more robust than ever. The crew, fresh off their triumph in East Blue, set their sights on Wano country, the land they had vowed to liberate during Luffy's earlier visit. Upon their arrival, they found Wano under the iron grip of Kaido and the Beast Pirates. The samurai were broken, the people starving, and hope was all but lost. The crew quickly rallied the remnants of Wano's resistance, including the Red Scabbards and Yamato. Yamato joined their cause wholeheartedly, fighting alongside them to fulfill their dream of freeing Wano and opening its borders. The battle against Kaido and his forces was one of the most intense the crew had ever faced. Zoro clashed with Kaido's right-hand man King in a brutal duel of strength and skill. After a fierce battle, Zoro emerged victorious. Ace and Yamato teamed up against Kaido, their combined power creating a devastating clash. Yamato's heavy attacks, fused with Ace's flames, pushed Kaido to the limit. Luffy himself joined the fray and unlocked his most powerful form during the hardship of the battle. Gear 5th, using advanced Conqueror's Haki and Gear 5th, Luffy delivered the finishing blow, shattering Kaido's tyrannical rule over Wano. With Kaido defeated, Wano was finally free. The people celebrated their liberation, and Yamato officially joined the Flaming Straw Hat Pirates. The crew's triumph in Wano sent shockwaves across the world, cementing their status as one of the greatest pirate crews in history. However, their growing influence drew the ire of the world government. Determined to eliminate the Flaming Straw Hat Pirates, the world government deployed a devastating weapon, the Mother Flame, a massive energy-based weapon capable of destroying entire islands. Their target was Dawn Island, the brothers' childhood home, under the mistaken belief that the crew had returned there. The Mother Flame's destructive power annihilated Dawn Island, wiping out everything the brothers held dear. The loss of their home enraged Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, their grief turning into a burning desire for revenge. Realizing they couldn't take on the world government alone, the brothers sought allies. Luffy tracked down and approached red-haired Shanks, the man who had inspired his journey. Shanks, recognizing the significance of the moment, agreed to join forces with the crew. With Shanks on board, Luffy used his connection with Ivankov from Impel Down to bring the Revolutionary Army into the alliance, finally having a chance to reunite with his father. With Dragon's approval, the Revolutionaries agreed to lend their full support. The alliance formed between the pirates and revolutionaries was unprecedented, uniting some of the strongest forces in the world for a final assault on Mary Geoise, the seat of the world government. The battle for Mary Geoise was the largest and most destructive conflict the world had ever seen. The remaining Marine admirals, Sakazuki, Fujitora, and Aramaki, led the government's defenses. Each admiral faced overwhelming opposition. Ace's flames clashed with Aramaki's plant-based abilities in a matchup that heavily favored Ace. Zoro fought against Fujitora in an awe-inspiring battle between swordsmen. Luffy proved to be more than any of the Marines could handle, even the Fleet Admiral Sengoku. With Shanks, the revolutionaries, and the might of the Flaming Straw Hat Pirates, our heroes quickly began liberating the slaves and cutting through the Marines. The climactic moment came when Luffy, Ace, and Sabo confronted the Five Elders and Imu, the shadowy ruler of the world. But with so many Conqueror's Haki users, even the Elders had to escape and bide their time. The air was tense as some of the strongest characters of One Piece came face to face. Make sure you're subscribed for more One Piece content.